How's everybody doing? Wave hello. Good to see you. So how is this week? How's your mind?
Who wants to go first?
Feel free, Maria.
Me? Should I go first? Yeah. It's to tell you the truth, it's my first time with this, so but my week was good. No good. Complaints. Yes, I'm grateful.
Well, welcome.
Thank you.
Do you ever do a meditation and feel calmer, more at peace, and then wonder, you know, how does that crazy mind come back so easily?
It's the same thing as trying to break habits. And you've managed it, you've mastered it, you're so proud of yourself, and then it comes flying back to hit you in the face.
Because what does that let us know? Have we really mastered it? So
not at all. Just keep on practicing it.
That's right.
We think we mastered it.
And be suspicious when you start to feel like, oh, I've got this down.
So, you're right.
Because that makes us, you know, that turns the mind towards goal setting, you know, that we've arrived somewhere. And then that, you know, it's never true. Because it isn't like that, is it? It's just that until we have true cessations where, you know, we no longer have ignorance, we no longer have any of these disturbing states of mind like jealousy or greed or selfishness or, you know, whatever it is, impatience, craving, you know, that itch for, you know, something else. You know, until we're free of those, you know, they can arise. And so when we are trying to let go of habits, it's really about, you know, being aware that you've met a condition that, you know, that you need to pause and choose how you're going to respond. You know, instead of assuming I got this. And then your habit energy arises when you meet certain conditions and runs with you. So the more we can tap into the peace and calm that is available in the mind when we allow it to be present. I mean, it's there. So it's more of that we allow all the chaos that we're hooked into to just pass through the mind and look beyond that, you know, to understand that each of these moments of chaos, they're temporary, they pass. And we want to draw from that depth of experience, trust, our good heart, that it's there. That we also have these habits we can draw from of patience and kindness and compassion and wisdom. And our understanding of impermanence. Our understanding that things change and that this moment doesn't have to dictate the next moment because of our choice in how to respond. And sometimes that response can be as simple as pausing, taking a few breaths so that we can experience what's happening, to really be able to observe what's happening without assumptions, without knee-jerk reactions, without our powerful habit energy just taking over. With being aware of what's going on in the body. That might signal that we're a little afraid, nervous, or infatuated. So we can slow ourselves down and choose how we respond. And if we practice sitting quietly, if we practice becoming familiar with just awareness, we can bring that to our present moment. So in this moment, we're starting a new activity of listening to the teachings, thinking about the Buddha's methods. So with that, we want to bring an intention. We want to have, we want to choose, we're going to listen with a distracted mind, or are we going to actually listen? Are we going to spend our time planning for what we're going to do later? Or are we going to be present here? Or are we going to be reminiscing about the past? Or are we going to be present? And of course, we have to make that decision again and again throughout the time because we do get hooked. And there we go. Well, that's okay. That's what we do. That's what we're learning, how to, how to go, no, not going there, I'm staying here. And then there are reasons why we want to do that. So we want to start by thinking of our motivation for showing up. For some, the first time, for others, again. And then we want to think about, using our time well. And so whatever way that means, what that has meaning for you, whether it's just to try to, you're curious and you're trying something new. And so you want to listen with an open mind. This is an opportunity to just, cultivate more understanding. Or perhaps you're just aware that the rest of your day is better when you refresh your mind with the teachings. Whatever the reason. So set an intention to use your time well based on that reason. And try to generate a sincere wish that it not just benefit your own peace of mind, but that it's going to ripple out to benefit others around you. I'll share the prayers. So for those of you who are identify as Buddhist, you know, you can recite the refuge prayer, but if you're new, don't. So just for the benefit of those of us who, like myself, clearly identify as Buddhist. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my practice of giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my practice of giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. I go for refuge until I'm enlightened to the Buddha, the Dharma, and the Supreme Assembly. By my practice of giving and other perfections, may I become a Buddha to benefit all sentient beings. And the four measurables. May all sentient beings have happiness and the causes of happiness. It'd be helpful to really try to think of real people when you do this. So you can think about your family, or you can think about the community, or you can think about the people, you know, that in the Philippines who just got through a hurricane, and, you know, people, you know, all over. I mean, there are just so many situations that might come to mind. And so just take a moment to wish all these beings to have happiness and the causes of happiness. And then wish them compassion. May all sentient beings be free from suffering and the causes of suffering. May all sentient beings be inseparable from the happiness that is free from suffering. And may all sentient beings abide in equanimity, free from attachment for friends and hatred for enemies. So we've been discussing the function of compassion in our pursuit of joy, shall we say, in our, you know, in our way of helping our minds, cultivating the states of mind that keep our heart open to the good stuff that happen all the time. When we are caught in, you know, our agitating states of mind, our disturbing states of mind, our negative thoughts, it can seem like everything is bad and it's always going to be bad and it could not be any worse, and, you know, all of those things. But cultivating habits of mind that are skillful, that recognize that nothing's ever like that. That's the trouble with minds of anger and hatred and fear, is that they dwell on, you know, their whole focus is on what's wrong with this picture. And it can exaggerate and block out from our view all the other things, all the other qualities of people, all the things that are happening in the world that are not greedy or harmful or whatever. So this isn't about trying to pretend that everything's fine for everybody, because it's not. Most of the time, it's not that way for us. Life's difficult. But just because there are difficulties or challenges doesn't mean that there aren't moments of, really skillful action going on at the same time. And so we want to always be aware of that. Because that can be a condition for us to generate states of mind that contribute to that. So last week we talked a little bit about how, when someone is angry at you, that if you pause and recognize that anger, what's underneath that anger? It's suffering. That person is suffering. And if we allow that condition to be an opportunity for compassion to arise in us, so that our response isn't just to get angry back, but instead to look at them with compassion, with this acknowledgement that, oh, they're suffering. And then we have a natural reaction to suffering, which is, oh, I wish I could help them be free of suffering. It's an incredible mind. And we just need to make space for it to arise. They've done a lot of research these days on compassion, about how we have it as babies. Rats have compassion for other rats. Almost all, we see it, with animals all the time, where, if an animal, a baby animal is having trouble, even, animals of other species will help them. So it's like, the mind has this quality, when it's free of things like anger, and hatred, and attachment for the self, and all of that things. When we allow ourselves to step back and let the other take the field, so to speak, have the spotlight on them, it's a lot easier to have skillful states of mind arise. It doesn't mean the other person will stop yelling at you. It might. Sometimes that's what happens. But mainly it's that you're not responding with that harmful energy of, retaliation. It's where we're keeping our hearts open to listen to what's underneath and see if there's any way, we might be able to help. Oh, I can see you're just, that something's upset you. What is it? How can I help with that? Is that what I don't know about you. Is that your habit to respond to something, when someone's upset or angry, or to kind of just go, how can I help? How can I help you with that? What's your response? To go, not me, not me. I didn't do it. Or don't talk to me that way. You're not going to get any help out of me if you talk to me that way. Yes, Graciela.
I was thinking that, can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. That, yes, you could say, you could have the attitude, yeah, how can I help you? And then you find that you can't help.
Yeah.
That it is a bottomless, or that is such a thing that they can only help themselves.
Can you, when you're in that place, do you need to be alone and have no one around you? Or do you need support? When you're in the bottomless pit, because trust me, people, you know, it's not just others that suffer in this way. We also have moments, you know, where we're bottomless pits.
Yeah, but what I'm thinking is I wouldn't, then all my desire for helping is like I wouldn't know what to do, because I really.
That's right. Oh my goodness. So now you're suffering. Oh, I don't know what to do. Oh, because we've made it about me. We have to be careful there, because it's so easy for us, because of our habits, because of our ignorance, that we land right smack back in the center of the universe.
Okay, so what would be the attitude of not being in the center of the universe, to let the other person just be?
Well, or listen. It doesn't mean you listen for the rest of your life.
No.
You know, we also know people, you know, I mean, you know, and it's, of course, we have to remember context. But we shouldn't always assume that even if our friend is a complainer and every time they call, they have 700,000 things to complain about, that the first thing that's on their mind isn't something that's new, or that perhaps you, or just the fact that you answered the phone is just, you know, helps them in some way. Doesn't mean we can't limit our time and just do our mental effort of, you know, wishing to become a Buddha in order to be able to be truly of benefit, in order to be able to know exactly what would help. But if we spend all of our time coming up with the reasons why, yeah, but, we'll always be in the center. Because that but is about me. So we want to watch that habit. And it doesn't mean that some people haven't developed the habit of, you know, trying to get support by, you know, nonstop relaying of all the things, you know, bad happening to them. That's a habit people can develop. And what's underneath that?
Thinking that others can take care of our needs.
How about suffering?
Oh.
This isn't rocket science. Yeah, Peggy.
That's what I was going to say. You answered.
Yeah, it's just, you know, like if we would cut all these stories out and all this vast, you know, reasoning, you know, and come down to it that if someone's living their life like that, do you think they're happy? No, they're suffering in some way. And they have a very unskillful way of trying to get support or friendship or lack of isolation, whatever it is, to feel, you know, connected. The fact that they're unskillful you know, doesn't mean, I mean, they could be a bodhisattva saying, come on, Graciela, get with the program here. One thing about you, that's, you know, I mean, it's just, you know, we have to use some, we have to really step out of ourselves and not think just about, oh yeah, but how much am I going to have to give? And I'm not picking on you because this is part of our fear, isn't it? Our fears will become doormats. We have a whole society that's terrified of becoming a doormat for others.
Well, it may be a different side of the same thing, but I'm thinking that I would be unsuccessful in my desire to help. I think
Oh, is
that's,
that the point then, that you succeed?
yeah, okay. Well, that's not what I want to say. I want to say, I want to help this person and I can't.
Okay, but you've listened.
Mm.
You know, that's all about what you want.
Mm. I have to think about that.
Yep. You know, we want to look at also this idea that, you know, that we can fix things for others.
Mm.
Because the way in which we might be most helpful is just to share space,
Mm.
mental space, you know.
Mm.
Sometimes it's just nice to feel heard.
Mm.
Yes, Joy.
So, I heard you right. It's okay to be a doormat.
No,
No?
no. No one can make you a doormat. You can choose to be a doormat.
Okay, it's okay to choose it. It's okay to
Well, I'm
it's-
not judging people who choose to be a doormat. I'm just saying that that is not coming from other. No one makes you do that.
no. So what I'm saying is I feel that when I'm having compassion or I'm just listening to somebody and yes, they're using me as a doormat. That word, I felt like it sometimes I do. I think it's important that let them just go.
No, you need to do something if you're feeling like a doormat. That's coming from you. That's within your mind. And so that's something that maybe you need help with. You know,
Or
we need
just
to understand. Yeah, go ahead.
let go of that doormat feeling and just accept that you're being the person that's just having compassion and
Right.
and not feeling like the doormat.
Yes. And so you have to look at yourself and say, okay, what is it? What is said, or what's the condition when I start feeling like a doormat? And so maybe it's, you know, this feeling that you know, that you're not accepting that, no, I'm sorry, I can't help with that. You know, oh, I feel your pain. I wish I could, you know, alleviate it, but I can't. You know, we don't feel good about that in our own minds. I mean, this is just what we do. You know, if somebody is asking us to fix something that we can't fix, if we turn that into they're right, I'm a failure, then we become a doormat and we are the doormat. We've done it. Nobody did it to us. Does that make sense?
I think I understand.
Okay. It's you know, it's that trial and error that we have to find. And of course, there's no goal in it, you know, but we do learn from our experiences to where we realize, oh, you know, whenever I do this, I'm extending beyond, you know, my limits. and I start to feel used. So I need to look at that, because I'm giving that power away. You know, it's about responsibility for our, you know, our actions, and then being comfortable with saying, you know I did this for you last week, but I can't do it again. I realized it's, you know, beyond my capacity. And what are you risking there?
Is that a question?
Yes, that's a question.
I don't have an answer for that.
Well, it wasn't just to you.
I think you'd be risking some maybe rejection or anger from the other person.
Right. And we don't like that, do we? So we have to weigh all these things. Sometimes we disappoint others. And if we're not comfortable with that, what are we saying about ourselves? What are our expectations of ourselves in those moments?
Perfection.
Right. Oh, I don't have any limits. I have to be perfect. I'm not a good friend unless I'm a perfect friend.
Also, maybe we're not worth taking care of ourselves.
Yeah,
Like,
you might think that, because we're basing it on, you know, perfection. If our expectation is that others are perfect and we're perfect, how happy are we going to be?
We won't be.
This is the danger of, first of all, goals. That there's some goal, you know, that, oh, in order to be perfect, I have to be able to do everything. So until I can do everything, I'm not worthy. There's no acceptance in there. Remember how we were talking about all the pillars that go into being open to joy. And one of them is acceptance for how things are, what's happening. One of them is our own limitations. Yes, Deborah.
So I guess I have a hard time knowing the balance between being compassionate, wanting to be helpful, being supportive, and knowing my own boundaries and limitations, and where the line is. That's very tricky for me.
There isn't a line. That's part of the thing. Is that sort of this goal? Oh, I want to find out exactly what the line is so I never cross it again, you know, and that's not possible. We're going to continue making mistakes about it. We're going to cross a line or not get close enough to the line. You know, this is that part about stretching and realizing, oh, too far, you know, and having to pull back. And it's going to be different with different conditions and different people and different, you know, all, you know, so that flexible, fluid mind that is just accepting of what's happening right now, that pauses, that steps back, uses its perspective, you know, uses its wisdom, uses all these different things to kind of get a, you know, a measure of this moment, and then chooses how to respond in this moment. I mean, I know that sounds like, oh, I could possibly not do that. Oh, are you kidding? How fast is your mind? I mean, I remember as a teenage girl, you know, being able to, you know, see an attractive person and think, you know, married, have children, have, you know, I mean, in less than an instant, you know. You know, the mind is incredible. So, you know, it's just when we're learning that we have to slow it all down to get all the parts in there. And we're not going to always be successful. But the more habituated we are to pausing and going, okay, you know, not following whatever urge rises, even because some of those urges are great urges, you know, but we want to get in the habit of pausing and checking it up, you know, just really looking, going, okay, is this urge that's arising skillful or not? Is it recognizing my limitations or not? Is it a reasonable expectation of myself? Whatever. I mean, you know, there's not really any reasonable expectation. Expectations are just danger, danger, all over the place. But because if you're like Graziella and feel like, oh, you know, I have to be successful at helping, you know, you've set yourself up. Because we're not Buddhists. We don't know what will help. We can only do our best. And is our best good enough? Not always. You know, sometimes not at all. You know, that's okay. And that's the other piece. You know, really being comfortable with our limitations, recognizing when we really want to work on, you know, like I know that I'm very impatient. And so I know that working on that is, you know, something I need to always be working on. You know, it's a big habit I have. So strong, powerful habit. And that causes, you know, so much harm in almost every condition. I have plenty of opportunities to work on it. But recognizing, you know, so really thinking about when you're not in the thick of it, you know, or when you know, perhaps you have a recent situation that comes to mind, you know, where you feel like you overstepped your, you know, your boundary, you know, and caused either harm to yourself or others, or it was just uncomfortable, or, you know, you wish, you know, or you just were exhausted by the end of it, you know. But the good news is you're all still here. So we haven't done anything that's landed us, you know, we're here. We're not in prison. We're not dead. You know, looks like none of us are sick at this moment, you know. So the consequence to whatever line we crossed wasn't so severe as what we might imagine it could have been. And also what we kind of imagine might be when we're hesitating. You know, think, oh, if I start this, where will it end? You know. Was I this like ridiculous when I was teaching in person? I feel very animated here by myself in my room. Sometimes I feel a little silly. But I have a feeling I did that when we were in person anyway. So. Okay. We want to have a sense. So we, you know, think of, you know, if we think about a situation where we, you know, really feel like we either became a doormat, or we felt like we overstepped our limitations, or we just feel icky about the whole thing or whatever. We want to, you know, that's an opportunity to be able to look back on it because it's finished, it's over with. We don't have to worry about it, you know, and just use it as a, oh, can I learn from this? You know, so we want to look at, you know, you really want to try to recreate it in your mind. What was going on in your mind, you know, when you said this or that, or did this or that, or when the other person said this or that, you know, to really kind of see, oh, was fear pressed? Was my self-image, you know, tweaked? You know, so what was pride involved? Was, you know, was I actually, sometimes we offer to do things just to get the other person to shut up. You know, just, yeah, I'll do it. Sign me up. I'll be on that committee. Just stop calling me. You know, I'm coming up with ridiculous examples because I'm talking to myself. But it's this, you know, so we want to be able to look back and kind of, you know, see what is it that was happening? Was I all afraid? Was I, did I feel like I would let them down again if I can't, you know, help? You know, can I live with that? You know, because it may not be true. You know, we don't, just because someone else feels that way doesn't mean it's true. It's true that they feel that way. But we really are responsible for our responses, you know, so are they. So they feel let down, they're choosing that. They feel rejected, they're choosing that. It doesn't mean that we aren't being a condition for that. Sometimes we act in a way, you know, that is a slap in someone's face. But whether we choose to make that a reflection of who we are is our inner process. You know, we all need to try to take care of that. Because we're not going to please everybody, not even close. We are certainly not able to help everybody. But what can we do? Sometimes we can listen, not always, because we may have some other commitment. You know, or sometimes we try to, you know, oh yes, I'll do your laundry, and then you hurt, you know, you break your arm and then you can't do their laundry. Is this making any sense? So our, you know, our compassionate wish someone be free of suffering does not mean, and I have the answer, and I can do this for you. Because if we could do that, Buddhists would have already done that for all of us, and none of us would be unhappy. We'd all be fine. But we can't do that. All we can do is recognize our connection to others, recognize that we can, you know, be part of good conditions for others. You know, we can be part of harmful conditions for others, you know. But the fact that we can't fix something does not determine that. Yeah, Jack.
So what determines that is the wish, the intention?
Yes. So that if we keep our minds clean, this is where I say, if we don't bring it back to me being in the center of the universe, and we can keep it as other being the focal point, you know, and we, you know, we still can only do what we can do, right? So if our intention is to be supportive, to be beneficial, you know, to not one, you know, like one area that we can really mess it up is when we, you know, when we say we can help when we can't. And we know that, you know, because then we really are creating a condition for the other person to have, you know, think this is going to happen. And you know it's not. So that's where we really have to accept our limitations and acknowledge them. And we have to know when we're lying. You know, if you're telling someone, oh, I really wish I could help you, and your mind's thinking, no, I don't. You know, then you're making yourself look good. It's not that you want to tell them, no, I don't want to help you. Tactfulness is helpful, but you don't want to kid yourself. You know, that might be one of those things you go, okay, I've got to work a little bit on being able to help people that maybe I don't like. You know, I'm not very good at that. I'm fine when so-and-so calls me and needs help, but if such and such calls me and needs help, I'm kind of like, oh, You don't even answer the phone because of caller ID, you know. So we just have to recognize when the reasons why we don't want to help are perhaps states of mind that we want to work on abandoning. But it's scary. Whether you're on the receiving end or the, you know, asking end. When I was living in a nuns community and I couldn't do anything, I was living in another country, I couldn't drive, you know, so I needed someone else to drive me to the grocery store, to everything. I mean, basically, you know, I was terrified of all the things that lived there, all the living beings other than the people. So basically, you know, people would help walk me from one building to another. So I didn't spend the whole thing, you know, running, you know, as fast as I could, you know, screaming. So, you know, so, but when I would ask for help, instead of asking my friends, the people I felt safe asking, I would just throw it out to the community. I just let the community know I need help with such and such. And and then that gave, no one was obligated to say yes or no. It was just out there. And it was very, very scary. You know? But I never went without a need being met. Never. I always got help.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
What was scary? The thought of needing help or the fear of asking for help?
All of it. The fear
Okay.
that, you know, I didn't deserve help. The fear that, you know, no one would help.
Okay.
The fear that it looks bad to need the help. You know,
Okay.
that's pretty much all those things.
Okay. Thanks.
Because you have to set your reputation aside.
Right.
You know, oh, I can do everything. I could do nothing in Australia. You know, I felt perfectly useless. They even, you know, where we lived, the kitchens, you know, often had just, you know, those gas burner thingies that you light with like a match, you know, it doesn't look like a stove at all. It just, you know, my goodness. I just knew I was going to burn down the place or have it blow up in my face. I never cooked, you know, never turned one on. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't make myself do it. I was totally out of my element. So it was really great. It was just this great opportunity to go, yeah, can't do that. Nope, can't do that. Can't do that. Can't do that. You know, you know, your pride just keeps, but you end up winning. It is so free to be able to, you know, say exactly, you know, like, I'm sorry, I need this. But I'm not asking anybody to stretch the, you know, if you can't get, you know, just don't. I just say at a community meeting, we do these whoop arounds, and I just say, I'm going to be needing someone to da 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 da. And I never asked a specific person for help. And I just let what arose, arose. So, you know, we can see ourselves on the reverse of that and not let someone's need dictate, you know, our opinion of ourselves. You know, we can choose, because that's how we end up feeling like a doormat. Well, I'm going to have to help to feel worthwhile. Now we should choose because we want to help. And we want to help out of our compassion for others suffering. So if we can help, if our abilities allow us to help. I actually learned how to drive enough in Australia, you know, as long as there were no roundabouts in the vicinity, because they're driving backwards, you know, on the wrong side, going the wrong direction, you know, roundabouts were terrifying. But I did get to the point where I was capable of driving enough to take someone else to the doctor regularly. So she needed, you know, and it's like, oh, yes. you know. But that didn't, you know, I mean, it's just this, you know, it's just, but can you imagine if I had volunteered before I knew, before I could do it? You know, we have to know our limitations and not see them as somehow black marks against us. That will allow our hearts to be a little more open to the suffering of others, because we're not so afraid to be put upon, because we can only choose to be put upon. We can say no. We can set limits. We can say, okay, when this friend calls me, you know, I will just let it be known at the very beginning that I have 10 minutes before the next thing I have to do. So I can listen for 10 minutes. And then we take responsibility for ending the call. You know, I'm sorry, I really do have to go. My next thing is starting. Okay, so y'all break up into groups and argue with this. This isn't fair. I don't know, whatever you, whatever's coming up for you, you know, about, you know, this process. Because I know it's, you know, some aspects of it are easy and other aspects of it are like, no, I don't think so, you know, so discuss those.
And so I also wanted to check in with everyone to see, how's everyone feeling about the breakout rooms? Who really enjoys the breakout rooms? Please raise your hand. Okay, because I want to give people an option. If you don't want to join the breakout rooms, you just sit in the waiting room and maybe reflect on the teachings at your own. How does that sound? Is that okay with you, Venerable Tendron?
Yeah. I mean,
Okay.
Of course, you don't have to show up to your breakout room.
Right, exactly. So that's what I'm saying. So it's going to be, let me, go ahead, Graciela, you have a question? Oh, no. Okay. So yeah, if you don't want to join, you just don't click the join meeting button.
Yep. And you
Okay?
certainly don't have to talk. But it is nice to introduce yourself. Did anybody solve the mysteries of the universe? And
We tried.
good. So what challenges are people coming up against? Go ahead, Robert.
This is interesting. So we were discussing in the group, you know, earlier you said, I mean, in the end, it's not rocket science, it's just suffering. And to me that resonated because especially people that just complain, and I'm definitely one of them. That's just a bad way of a bad condition or habit we've learned to express ourselves. So intellectually, once you say that, okay, yeah, that this person is just doing that, and you say, okay, now I can see this different. This time I'm gonna look at it. And then as soon as it's like a family member, that's what we discussed. And as soon as someone close to us, then all of a sudden, the intellectual, I'm just gonna realize there's suffering that goes out the window. I'm trying to understand why is that? Yeah,
Patience. Patience. You know, we also have limitations on our patience. Oops, I can't hear you. You've muted again.
Sorry. Why, like, especially family members or people are close to, then it becomes, it's not just the words anymore. It becomes more personal. And I don't know if that's,
Well, it could mean for the rest of your life.
Oh, yeah.
Oh my God, I live with this person. Do I have to put up with this for the rest of my life? you have to see how, of course, people that we spend a lot of time with, you know, if we feel like they have a habit that is annoying, you know, where we can make it a big deal. Every time it occurs again, you know, it's like the chalk on the, well, nobody knows that anymore. You know, it's just that, you know, there's just, you know, we just kind of react. Oh, there they go again, you know, and it's like what sitcoms are made of, you know, the scene where the person, you know, is stirring their coffee or something and their spoon constantly drags on the cup and the spouse is getting more and more irritated with it and they have a big argument over this stupid thing, you know. You know, we have to look at when our mind's going, I had to put up this forever. Why can't they? We have to be, this is where that self-awareness of really being aware, what's going on in my mind and this mind, in my body? Is I already gotten tight because they've said the first word, oh, whatever, you know, we come to associate with that, you know, activity. You know, and then we have to check up, you know, and one of the ways, easy ways to start is just say, do I do anything that may irritate them, that they're going to have to put up with for the rest of their life? You know, maybe I need to step back, take a deep breath and go, it's okay. This is really not a big deal. You know? And then other things may be, oh, maybe we need to have a conversation about it because it has more meaning than just the irritating, you know, sound of the spoon against the cup. You know? So we have to use our wisdom. We have to check up. We have to, you know, kind of go, really, I'm letting myself get upset over this trivial thing. You know, this is a give and take of relationships. And then sometimes we have to think, okay, if this was just my friend, would it bother me at all? You know, we have to try to get our perspective on it. And then we can learn to practice patience. The funniest thing, sort of funny, not funny, haha, the funny, like, you know, a Buddhist nun thinks, you know, but, you know, was when a teacher was describing patience. And of course, the nature of patience is, you know, that you know, you accept the suffering that's arising in your mind, you know, from the object of harm, you know, and you accept it without any desire to retaliate. Well, the premise of patience is someone's trying to harm you. And when the teacher just looked at us in the class and said, when's the last time someone tried to harm you? You know, most of us actually don't have that experience of being harmed, you know? And it's really funny how we think that, you know, somehow it's so hard to be able to tolerate somebody's habit, you know, every day, because it's the, you know, we live with them, we see them every day. It's just an interesting thing if we start to really have perspective and go, this person's not trying to harm me. This is just their habit, you know. I have habits that, you know, don't suit everybody. You know. Is that making sense? So you have to look at it.
Yes, I just want to follow up though, like obviously with spouses or something or someone close, yeah, sometimes the way they breathe, and that's more than something in us, I guess, right? But
No,
like,
it's always in us. It's,
right. But even if it's not, like say like the every once 6 months phone call to grandma, and you know you're gonna get spoken for, you haven't called in so long, and some people, so you just put off. So that's not even so frequently. But someone else you would find cute, someone saying that, but that particular person.
You have to recognize that, oh, if it was someone else, I might think it's cute. So why am I putting an expectation on this person that I don't put on that person? This is where we don't have equanimity.
Oh, sorry. That's what I was trying to ask exactly. Why on that particular person do we?
It's karma.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, some people were like that from on site. They just irritate us, or they frighten us, or they whatever. I mean, you know, that happens. But also, I mean, I think in our group, I think there's some people we feel guilty around. You know, grandmother telling us that, why haven't you called before? Right. And you actually put it off to make sure it happens. So we have to look at that and you know, can I accept that that's going to be the beginning of the conversation? What harm does it do? You know, why am I demanding of this person a perfect conversation? You know, I know that that's what she says. So why am I calling with the hope that this time it'll be different? Why? Why? You know, you don't have a contract with her that says, you know, you only get to do this, you know, 2 out of 3 times that I call. You know, you probably haven't discussed it with her at all. Bobby, did you have something to add?
Mine, I'm back. Yes. Well, it's not so much add, but a question. I feel like the more of an emotional connection, which would be to a family member, makes it that much more challenging. If we had, you know, there was a person we knew distantly that had an alcohol or drug problem, it would be concerning. But if it was a loved one, it would be a lot more difficult. The same as, you know, a phone call to or from a grandmother.
I love how we go to the extremes, Bobby. Let's bring up the drug addicts in our family, you know. Yes, there's a difference, no doubt. That's where our wisdom comes in. We really have to use our wisdom. Some behaviors just annoy us. You know?
What I was trying to express was the annoyance is greater depending on the emotional connection, and the emotional connection is, for me anyhow, greater with family members than it is with others.
But it depends, doesn't it? Sometimes that our loved ones are the ones where we think it's cute. But the stranger, we just wouldn't even, we tolerate it one time and never, see them again. But it's really interesting how, yes, it makes a difference where they are in our circles. But it depends. Our response depends. It depends on our habits, what we see as attractive, what we see as unattractive. The fact that we don't use equanimity. Y'all are moving around. Somebody else had joy. Did she just?
Well, I lowered my hand, but what I wanted to say was that I agree. If it's a family member, I know myself, I am more compassionate or patient, and I step back. So I think with a family member, you're able to listen to more and not judge as much.
Or just the opposite. It depends, whose family we're talking about here. What person?
Well, I think, but how can it depend with compassion?
It can't depend with compassion. That's the beauty of it.
All right.
But we can be aware, our lack of compassion for someone can be our signal that we do not have equanimity. Because if we would feel compassionate for so-and-so over here, but we don't feel it for so-and-so over here, the same thing, that shows our lack of compassion, our equanimity. And we want to, and equanimity does not help. I mean, absence of equanimity doesn't help us. It's what puts us, in these, you have to help me, I have to see you as appealing, in order to want to tolerate you.
Can I ask you something else? That word, say that word again, equanimity, that was in the prayer, and I can Google it. I don't know what it means.
It means looking upon, having equal, that you don't treat anybody differently based on your relationship with them. So if your relationship, is friendship, you treat, you respond to friends the same way, that you respond to anyone, that you don't choose your actions based on whether you see someone as a friend, enemy, or stranger. In other words, you live from your values, not according to what others give you. If someone gives you harm, you still have compassion for them. If someone gives you help, you have compassion for them. It's learning how to understand that our labels of friend, enemy, stranger constantly change. Think about all your friends when you were a teenager who are now strangers. The people who were once enemies that are now friends. That they are references to their relationship with us, whether they help us or harm us now, or do nothing. They're neutral to us. They're not in our lives. We want to develop our minds of compassion, our minds of love, to not make that distinction. We want to live from what we feel is wise and loving and compassionate, no matter who's out here, what condition is out here. That's how we will have peace of mind. We're pulled around by these, sort of, in one simple way you could look at it is, oh, my friends deserve my help and my enemies don't. Well, if that's your value, people have to prove it to me first before I will, help them prove their value, their worth. You might want to look at that. The Buddha's saying that our happiness comes when we don't make those kinds of distinctions, when we understand that everybody's trying to be happy and mostly don't know what they're doing.
Tendron?
Yeah.
Yeah, I have a question. I brought this up during our group discussion. So you have, for instance, let's example, you have a friend who's suffering and you're listening and you have an idea of, in your mind, because you're studying Buddhism, that there's impermanence to things and situations. And, I was just wondering, should you bring that up? Should you?
Have they asked for your advice?
Well, maybe they do.
It depends. That's an important feature.
Right.
If they have not asked for your opinion on any of it and they want you just to listen, then maybe it's not appropriate. And I certainly, I would always say beware of putting a label on it.
Mm-hmm.
Because why? Then you're just, it's more you want to convey your understanding of things being impermanent and how helpful that has been to you, and you want to share that.
But you're
if
trying
it's appropriate.
So that would be trying to come up with a solution, which doesn't always help. It's probably more useful just to listen.
Well, it depends. If they call you up and say, I need some help with this.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
And then so you listen. You have to always listen first, to the whole thing.
Right.
Not jump in going, oh, I know.
Mm-hmm. Because I have a tendency to default to the Buddhist principles now. I think, oh gosh, maybe there's compassion involved here. Maybe, forgiveness is what maybe you're lacking. But you share it
from your experience, not from some, oh, well, the Buddha said. I mean, I know I do that a lot. That's my job. So,
yeah.
But you could, But it doesn't matter if it's in the text. You really want to talk from experience. Oh,
right.
I understand, that, how terrible it is in this moment. But I've also learned to understand that, that things change. And so, whatever. But it's only if they ask for some perspective Otherwise, you're just, giving that old unasked for advice.
Mhm.
We all love that.
Mhm. Mhm.
So it's just, now if we're a parent and we're trying to help our children, kind of comes with the job. Oh, caution around the word advice. Just share your experience. Don't put it out there as advice. Also, it can be just, because what works for you may not work for someone else. Not in that moment. So we just have to, be very respectful about process.
Often, when friends ask for your advice, they really don't want it. They just want the opportunity to talk.
Yep. And it's okay to back off or to say, oh, I'm sorry. I thought you were asking for advice. And, just acknowledge that, yes, what works for me, doesn't work in every situation. But I think, hesitating before giving advice is probably a good plan. Listening is probably the first thing that people want. And knowing that you don't hang up with them and hang up on them and say, man, don't ever call me again. People need to find out that you still love them, even though they're telling you some horrible thing about themselves. Not that you have to. Now I'm just rattling. Okay, so, but it does depend. Almost everything depends. Everything's a dependent arising. You're never going to find a teaching that can be applied word for word like it is in a text to every situation. It's not like that. We are all dependent arisings. All the conditions are dependent arisings. We don't have enough information most of the time to have the, ability to even know what's best for someone else. We can barely tell what's best for ourselves. But we have to work on it. I mean, we try to work on what's best for ourselves. But a lot of it is just coming back to this idea. We all want to be happy. We don't want to suffer. When, responding to people with loving kindness, with this understanding that, most of the time we don't know what we're doing and we make mistakes. We say terrible things to each other. We make bad decisions sometimes, but, we can't prevent that. It's because of, we don't know everything. But we don't have to feel guilty because we have limitations. We can learn, when we realize, oh, I probably could have been more help, after the fact. And so the next time the opportunity arises. Yeah, Brian.
That was me.
Okay. We certainly don't have to agree with everything that everybody says or anybody says, or, it's just, the more we can stay open to just the connection that's there, that this is another suffering sentient being, just like me. That whatever, negative stuff is being directed towards us is just a reflection of their suffering. We don't have to say it's a reflection of me. No, it's not about that. It's saying something about where they are. It's like, we can look at ourselves and go, oh, do I do that they're accusing me of? Yeah, maybe. Do I think it's wrong? Well, we have to use our wisdom. Oh, I think I'll look into that. And we can even ask people not to yell at us. You know, but we can't do that right then. I have to pause. We have to acknowledge their suffering. You know, try to be a condition for them to calm down, to express themselves in a different way. And often that comes from this acknowledgement. Oh, I can see something's wrong. What's happened? Maybe we can problem solve together. I don't think this was at all what I was planned on talking about. I mean, it is, compassion was I was planning, but this wasn't exactly the direction I think I was thinking. Maybe it was. Okay, here's the slide I was going to start with, just for fun. This is from His Holiness, from this book, the Book of Joy. So mental immunity is just learning to avoid the destructive emotions and to develop the positive ones. First, we must understand the mind, the diverse thoughts and emotions we experience on a daily basis. Some of these thoughts and emotions are harmful, even toxic, while others are healthy and healing. The former disturb our mind and cause much mental pain. The latter bring us true joyfulness. So this is, about understanding that we do not have to follow our habit energy. We can recognize when unskillful states of mind are arising, pause, step back. Regroup. We may need, compassion, self-compassion, loving kindness directed to ourselves. And then we can, send some of that out. Making that connection. This is another suffering sentient being. And I want to choose how I respond, not let their behavior dictate. So getting familiar with how we would like to be. Becoming familiar with how we feel when we're feeling compassionate or loving kindness or when we're helping someone else. Versus how we feel, when we're angry or greedy or, Because we want to recognize that we want to abandon those kinds of states of mind that disturb us. And we may not, be able to develop such consistency, even with lots of practice and lots of time in this life, but we want to, just develop, new habitual reactions. So our first reaction to most things is an open, loving, kind mind. And not about me. Because the reality is someone else's stuff isn't about you. It really is about them. So we don't have to feel guilty. We don't have to take, responsibility for how they're acting, but we can recognize, that we are conditions, and when we behave badly, they might too. I mean, so we have to, look at that. But we can only, make changes in our body, speech, and mind. We can't do that for someone else. And the Buddha's just saying, if we do that, our suffering will be less, even though we can't do it for someone else. Okay, so let's, think about, yay, I had a plan to show up this morning. I showed up this morning, and I've been trying to think about these topics that, make life meaningful. So we want to rejoice in that. And we want to share any positive potentials that we place in our mind stream. We want to share how that's going to ripen with others. Well, I don't have it up there. And we'll recite the dedications. Not showing. Can you see the dedications? Something happened. Okay. May all beings everywhere, plagued by sufferings of body and mind, obtain an ocean of happiness and joy by virtue of our merits. May no living creature suffer, commit evil, or ever fall ill. May no one be afraid or belittled with a mind weighed down by depression. May the blind see forms and the deaf hear sounds. May those whose bodies are worn with toil be restored on finding repose. May the naked find clothing, the hungry find food. May the thirsty find water and delicious drinks. May the poor find wealth, those weak with sorrow find joy. May the forlorn find hope, constant happiness, and prosperity. May there be timely rains and bountiful harvests. May all medicines be effective and wholesome prayers bear fruit. May all who are sick and ill quickly be freed from their ailments. Whatever diseases there are in the world, may they never occur again. May the frightened cease to be afraid and those bound be freed. May the powerless find power, and may people think of benefiting each other. For as long as space remains, for as long as sentient beings remain, until then, may I too remain to dispel the miseries of the world. So thank you all. Thanks for your participation. So Tuesday, we continue with the 7-point mind training. Thursday, I think, is the last class on spiritual teacher by Nick Rebush. Next Sunday is the usual. And then the following week is Venerable Amy starting the Discovering Buddhism on Transforming Problems. So if you feel that you have problems, you might want to show up for that. So any other announcements?
Yeah, just thanks to everyone who has contributed to the House Fund. It's very kind and generous of everyone, and just letting anybody who doesn't know about the House Fund that we are working on a lot of fundraising over the next month to hopefully get our own home for the center.
Which hopefully we'll be able to go back to.
Yeah, exactly. And we have had a very kind and generous donor offer a match of up to $50,000. So, it's also a great incentive to make a donation. And thanks to all of you that have, really, really appreciate it. And that's it. And we'll have a page on the website, hopefully ready tomorrow, a whole page with updates and information. So.
Yay, wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah. So check it out. Open your microphones and say bye.